But shit, so you fucked your knee up in Italy, right? I just want to hear this story. We were talking about this like earlier before we started rolling. So like,
yeah, I was at a place called Dog Eat Dog MMA in Florence, and I'd been rolling with all their guys. It was really fun. Alessio Sakara was there, and I go with the head no-gi grappling coach, and he hits an Imanari on me. Well, the mats were really spongy, so my legs stayed in it as he went. I didn't fold up with him and roll with him. I couldn't. I tried to, but the rest of me wasn't having it. And so, yeah, I made some interesting noises, crawled around the ground like a injured harp seal for a minute, and then I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm cool. And I rolled for 15 more minutes.
What?
Well, the adrenaline was going, and I was like,
did you not hear any?
I heard a lot of pops. And then kept going, and I was like, I feel good. And then I sat down, got some water. We took the whole, hey, let's take a picture, everybody. Then the adrenaline wore off, and I almost passed out. I threw up. It was bad. But, yeah, limped around Italy for a little bit.
That's fucking crazy. And they told you not to go to the doctor there, right?
Yeah, they go, here, let me give you some stuff we put on horses. And I wrote some stuff on my knee that they use on horses there, and it worked amazing.
Well,
I was able to get back to the U.S.
That's awesome.
And I didn't have surgery for for 10 months.
Wait, 10 months?
Yeah, that's how. I mean, I was still training and everything and doing stuff. In 10 months, I did super fights and everything.
Wait, so you were doing super fights with a torn ACL?
MCL, meniscus, and then no PCL. I haven't had a PCL since 2010.
That's pretty crazy.
So
although I guess you theoretically can grapple with that injury.
I mean, you can grapple without an arm or a leg, or either, or
any. Yeah. I mean, that's all true.
So.
But I mean, it's crazy. Like you hear stories of like kids finishing out their like wrestling seasons. They have an torn ACL, and they wrestle the whole season with a torn ACL. Yeah, and like
the kid this year just won second NCAA national championship with no ACLs. Period.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, this just happened.
That's insane. But they literally told you not to go get surgery because of how shitty. Is it because of like how do you rate the healthcare system in Italy based on what your friends at the gym told you?
I would just say that universal health care is an amazing idea in theory, and if you have the logistics and everything to set it up. However, health care in any country basically is if you have money, you're going to get things taken care of. If you don't, you're probably not, or the quality is not going to be very good. I think that is universal health care.
I can see that. I mean, that seems like it's common knowledge.
For
but
sure.
I don't know. You could also, like, if you are delinquent on your healthcare bills, you could, like, theoretically lose your house and it fucks your credit score up, and it could do all this, like, other, like, really bad stuff in America.
The way that I understand it is if you let something be delinquent, then of course it's going to be on your credit. But if you get a bill and you go, oh, I don't want that to be delinquent. When is it delinquent? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days? I mean, I say if you just put $10 a week on it, whatever you can put. If you're going to buy this crappy Seinfeld shirt.
This shirt is awesome. Get the fuck out of here. Anyway.
I'm just saying. I mean, okay, so if you had the extra $1.50 that it takes to buy that Seinfeld shirt, you could send
that in. You know how hard those little Chinese kids work to make that shirt, Brad?
I do.
A lot.
I do.
Anyway, keep going.
I employ little Chinese kids at my gym. So really good workers, small hands. They can get into places, change light bulbs really easy.
Dude, that's
cool.
A fascinating story. But anyway, so what the whole life hack is? What if you pay like $20 a week or something?
If you just pay something
on
a bill, it's not delinquent. You're paying on it. You're actively paying on it. And every month, every time you send the thing, is hey, send another one in a week.
Dude, you need to make a video doing health insurance life hacks. That was powerful. That was fucking powerful. But all right, let's get serious because I didn't even want to talk about this health because the health stuff just happened because I hurt my knee doing jiu-jitsu a couple weeks ago and we were just talking about it and then it just segued in and I'm like, dude, you should tell that story when we start airing. So, but you're what, like the head coach or are you the head jiu-jitsu coach or the head MMA coach? What school are you the head MMA at Bastos BJJ or is
No. So he's moved on. He's doing something on his own. He's down the street. He's super successful, doing an amazing job over there. I'm the owner, head coach at Midland BJJ.
Okay.
So I have that job. I've got some amazing coaches with me. I've got Chip Cole, Dean Ritter, Jeremy Newton, Nestor Jimenez. We've got some assisting coaches, Brinson Prince and Cody Vetro. We've got some really cool people there. Livia Quintana, and all those people are all helping teach different stuff. So it's a really cool little community we built.
That's awesome.
We try not to focus on one person all the time. We always have new people coming in. Every month we have a seminar with somebody, at least one. So we've had Cole Miller, Jeff Glover, Ryan Hall, King Mo, Ryan Quinn from Bellator. So we have people all the time.
Dude, that is awesome.
It's really fun.
That's awesome. And you also do a bunch of stuff with the police department, right?
I don't do stuff with the police department because I don't work for a department. I'm sure they're very stoked that I don't. But I was a police officer for 8 years.
Okay, I did not know that actually.
Yeah, I was a police officer for 8 years. I actually had been teaching police officers in like 2004, I believe, 2003, 2004, because I was bouncing at bars and clubs, and people knew I did the UFC stuff.
Yeah, because that was before it was popular.
It was before it was even called MMA. It was NHB fighting, Vale Tudo fighting, no rules fighting. So when a couple officers found out that I had done that, and that they looked at it like, man, this is really what fighting is. It's not the stuff that we learn in Taekwondo academies and stuff. It's not the stuff we learn in the old kung fu days and everything that a lot of police officers had brought in over the years. This is real, and so they are like, hey, you know what you're doing. You're doing it competitively. So can you teach us some stuff? And it was really basic back then. It was you taught them a key lock, you taught them an arm bar, you taught them how to what to look for that can happen with those couple of things. You taught them how to rear naked choke and guillotine. You taught them how to blast double and single leg, and that was about it. That there wasn't a whole lot to the deck because there weren't that many cards in it.
Yeah. But you never actually did any seminars or stuff with police departments to teach them that stuff. I thought you did a lot of that.
Yeah. So now currently what I do is I work with all area law enforcement. We do a program called the Blue Line Blue Belt program.
Okay.
So what that is we will give free Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes to police officers until they reach Blue Belt. Now, I do have some cops that go, hey, I want to pay you for it. If they want to pay, that's fine because they actually see the value in doing it. But our biggest thing is to take away the excuses because officers always have these same excuses of, I would do jiu-jitsu, but I don't have the money for it. It's an extra expense. I got kids doing t-ball and softball and club soccer and everything. All right, cool. Well, it's free. I don't have time. No problem. We got 6 a.m., 12, 4, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30. I actually built my schedule around what the shift work is because I would wake up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, go to the gym, have a 4 o'clock class. Well, now we have a 4 p.m. class Monday through Friday. So we do the Blue Line Blue Belt program, and then also we host Invictus seminars at our gym. And Invictus is a law enforcement group that is focusing on making Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu mandatory nationwide for all police officers to have as part of your standards for training and continuing education.
Because I think that should be a prerequisite that should have been done yesterday. Especially in light of all the stuff that we saw this summer with the George Floyd and the Jacob Blake and there was a kid named Mike Ramos who got shot in Austin. There's a whole bunch of this shit that's just been happening.
Right.
And it's just I ran a whole city council campaign about this, and one of the things I was really focused on was the fact that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training needs to be mandatory for police officers because a lot of the shit that you see that gets hyped up on the news wouldn't happen as much because you'll be a lot more mentally calm under pressure to not do an extreme thing as a result of something.
Well, I think it covers a lot more areas than just the ability to hey, I've been in a fight before. I know how to do this to somebody the most efficient way possible. That's obvious.
Yeah.
The things that happen also as a result of training jiu-jitsu is you now as a police officer get to go from where your daily interaction with the public is always the worst stuff. If the cops come up, nothing good just happened. If you have an interaction for the police officers, nothing good is happening. So that's their interaction with you. You don't like it because the cops are there. They don't like it because they're treated like the messengers of doom and gloom everywhere they go. So it's cool for them to go from being treated like that just as baseline and then having to see all the horrible, messed up evil aspects of society. They're dealing with people that are beating up their kids or beating up their wives. People are doing all this horrible crap. And that's all they see. And then they go into a jiu-jitsu room and they see people from all those different walks of life that they're dealing with every day that are good humans, that are talking to each other, that are bonding over something. There's that commonality between everybody. And I think that kind of brings them back down and goes, oh, there's still hope in the world. There's people that just want to have fun and laugh and train and be good people.
Yeah, and then you become less jaded. And the less jaded you are, the better you will be at your job.
100%, because then you're not gonna be so quick to be like, I'm done with this conversation. I don't want to hear what you're saying anymore. I'm just trying to talk to the cops. I was just trying to ask questions. You're trying to ask questions from a guy that all he sees every single day is the absolute worst stuff, that if you had to go through it and see it, you'd have PTSD, you'd have a drinking problem, you'd be shooting your TV, you'd be beating, all the things that people say that cops do, that there are statistics that show that they do them. But what's the reasons? Because they're seeing the worst stuff every single day. Military guys will tell cops, like, I just had to see this on deployments. You have to see this stuff every single day. It's like a slow drip in a faucet. At some point, it's going to overflow.
Yeah. And that's why I think jiu-jitsu should be mandatory.
100%.
Because it allows you to, or yoga, or both. I mean, honestly, right?
I think that anything that makes you in better physical shape.
I think the cities, when they do the police budgets, they need to subsidize jiu-jitsu for either subsidize jiu-jitsu for the officers. Actually, no, they should. And then, you work out a contract with whatever gym the officers decide to go to, so you're also helping the gyms. And then you subsidize the yoga studios, to like the mom and pop yoga studios or the Black Swans or whatever, to go teach yoga to the cops is another form of stress management. I think the city should be putting money in their budget to subsidizing these programs to make it so that our cops are just better equipped at handling stress.
Yeah, the stress issue is huge. I think jiu-jitsu is a really good way to negate that, learn how to mitigate it the best way possible. But you got to be honest. What you're saying right now is the problem across the board with all agencies right now. Is you're saying, hey, we need to get them to subsidize this. That means, well, we can't defund, right?
Well, you shouldn't be defunding.
And then on top of that, you got to say, hey, let's get money into these guys for training. Well, we already are paying for training. Well, what training are you paying for? And if you go across the board, it's Krav Maga, it's PPCT, it's Spear, it's all these different use of force tactics and systems that they sign up for and pay for, and they buy a contract out for X number of years as long as they can keep recertifying people as instructors, and for the officers to do it in their academy and their in-service training. And the stuff they're choosing is only being chosen because, number one, it's familiar, and number two, it's going to be the stuff that they've already been implementing so long, the familiarity part, and also it has backing by lawyers and insurance companies. So
wait, why does jiu-jitsu not have backing by?
Well, but that's the thing. Is jiu-jitsu is run by a bunch of people just trying to make money, just like everybody else. But the thing is it's in its use. You're trying to now say, hey, we're going to take this out. We're going to put it in the most litigious entity in the world, which is the police department. That means you're going to go contact someone. You put them in handcuffs. You don't really hurt them, but they say you injured them. Well, what's Mr. Stringer's training? Oh, well, he has jiu-jitsu. What is jiu-jitsu training? And they're going to pull your file and they're going to say, well, he trained it in his academy, he trained it in service, and he's got all his training. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and sue you guys. So now you're going to get sued. Your sergeant's going to get sued. The lieutenant's going to get sued. The deputy chief, the city manager, all that stuff. But also what's going to be listed in there is somewhere there has to be some kind of liability, vicarious liability, that goes to the system you're using. The police department knows that, so they are paying that system to be able to send an expert witness and a doctor and people to come in and say, the way we teach these techniques to your guys and the way that their guys teach their guys follows our guidelines. It's showing that you can only have this type of injury related to this if this happens. And so then now look at all this paperwork we've just developed, talking about right now, all these steps in trying to just do the easiest thing, which is train jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu. And a lot of these other martial arts don't really work all that well.
They have documented, I know what you can do to someone. I strike them like this, the risk of injury, the percentage of people that get injured this way, all this stuff. They've got all these things. It's all numbers.
But yeah, it's all like, but they have the resources for some reason to defend these departments from lawsuits. But how do these systems even have how does Sama or whatever these other Krav Maga or all these other techniques have the resources when the jiu-jitsu community is making money hand over fist now, especially with Fight to Win and all these events and EBI.
But that's the thing is, none of those people are trying to put that money into what you're talking about. That's why. These companies are just making money to market something to police. The Gracies have done this with Gracie Survival Tactics.
The combatives and stuff,
it used to be called Gracie Combatives. Now it's called GST.
Okay.
They've done that. They will send people, but you have to go to their course and get certified as an instructor, and then you have to go to your research. So we're talking about money all the time going into something, and that's what you're paying for. The issue is the guys that run the departments are guys that have been there for 20 years, 30 years. Well, 20, 30 years ago, it was UFC 1. So what's familiar? Well, Krav Maga, because Israeli special forces use it and we're awesome. Okay, well, you're
it's
also
dinosaur thinking.
Yeah,
You got a lot of
100%.
dinosaur thinking, and hopefully in the next decade, these dinosaurs leave, and then the guy that's been a cop for 20 years might be a little more receptive.
Who now
and he's
is
like,
a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and he goes, "Hey, I want to
exactly,
do this."
yeah, because you're gonna none of these chiefs have fucking black belts. Very few of them, right? But maybe some of these lieutenants have black belts, and
Right.
then one day the lieutenant becomes a chief, and he says,
Right.
"Hey, this is a really good idea. We got to lobby this."
And these things are happening. There's guys like Chad Lyman. Chad Lyman's running. He runs C4C. It's a amazing program that doesn't just cover jiu-jitsu, because jiu-jitsu is not a catch-all. It's not good for everybody. Some people have no business grappling. They're just not good at it. You and I know people that they go to the gym every day for the last 10 years, and they're just not that good. They can roll. They're better than the guy on the street, but they're just not that good at it. But they might be really good at boxing or kickboxing or wrestling.
I do know
or whatever.
people like that. Yeah, I do know people like that.
So the way he proposes is like, hey, let's not just say departments need jiu-jitsu, because what you're doing is by saying that, say, hey, your guys need jiu-jitsu.
I think it's got to be a grappling-based martial art.
Here's the problem. No matter what it is, whatever you say it is, you're telling a guy that's been doing that job for 30 years that this is what you got to do. You got to do jiu-jitsu. Well, that guy probably grew up doing karate, and all of his other people he came through the department, they did karate, and they learned some,
Or he could have boxed all his life or something like that.
Whatever.
Yeah, and he's... Okay.
So what you have to do is you can't go in and say, I want to do jiu-jitsu. Chad and Jay Wadsworth, both of those guys are huge in the law enforcement community with pushing what we're doing. Those guys both say, hey, it's not about jiu-jitsu. It's not about wrestling. It's not about anything. You have to essentially be a mixed martial artist for fighting, because you have to learn how to punch a little bit, because some situations call for you fighting somebody at range. Some situations call for you to be wrestling, call for jiu-jitsu. So it's train these guys up all the way around is the issue. And again, you have to get departments, chiefs and heads and admin that aren't threatened by the fact that you're saying, hey, what you're doing is not working. It's time to try something different. And it sucks it sucks for a guy that's in a position of authority. I've done this job successfully for 30 years.
To be like the head of a police department, it's a lot of testosterone. You have to have a monster ego and all that stuff. And a lot of guys like that do not like being told no.
Yeah, and also those guys are the head of that thing, but they also have to kiss the butt of the guy above them. They got to kiss the butt of the guy above them. So
yeah, and a bunch of super rich, powerful guys. A bunch of super rich, powerful guys with big egos don't like being told that their idea is outdated or not working. Yeah. Just like the city with our homeless problem. It's obviously it's a failure, even though it was done with the best intentions, but our mayor still wants to push more and more funding towards this problem that's only going to get bigger. And it's just, you could say whatever conspiracy you want, and I believe me, I have a bunch of them, but just aside from all that, it's his ego. He's an ego.
Right.
It's your ego. You're the mayor of the 10th biggest city in the world. You know what I mean? You're worth tens of millions of dollars. You came up as an eminent domain lawyer. You have a big ego, and you don't want to admit that you're wrong, and that's what it kind of feels like.
I think you have departments that are getting to be super lucky. Like Las Vegas PD, where Chad Lyman's at. They've got him as a sergeant. He's a guy that's out there doing the job, and he's able to train guys up.
Yeah.
There's still going to be people above him that don't like it. There's still people below him that don't like it. Midland, Texas is very fortunate. You went from a very old school way of thinking that was very much, I'm not okay, you're not okay, and that's okay, to now having a chief there, Chief Herman, who is, he wrestled. He's done jiu-jitsu. He's done every job that you can have at the department. So, and he's out there actually doing the work with people, and he's going to say, whatever these guys need to do to be safer and to protect people, we're going to do that. So they've now started going from just Krav Maga to now they're sending people this weekend to a certification course. And they're sending guys are voluntarily coming into the gym. So we're looking at just a little generational thing. The next generation of officers coming in will be more open-minded to it. The next generation from that will be more open-minded to it. And that keeps pushing those people that are doing it up.
And I think it's also important to have these discussions to show that police departments are evolving into a much more compassionate, more competent group of people, and because everywhere on the news it shows that these guys are just authoritarians and neo-fascists, and all they do is want to shoot black people and all this crazy stuff. And I'm sure maybe some of that stuff exists with somebody, right? And there's but it's not healthy to present that as the main narrative and ignore the fact that you see departments that are actively trying to improve, and that never gets talked about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. Well, the thing is you're just looking at perception, and perceptions are always going to be more skewed toward what your line of thinking is, what your previous bias is. And one of the big things about it is also we're looking at, the cops are always attacking Group X, okay? And then you look at the numbers and go, well, Group X is the most contacted by cops.
Yeah.
And then you look at, well, Group X is the least advantage with school and with finance and everything. Okay, so all these different things play into it. At the end of the day, all that stuff takes so much to change. You need to work on, well, I need good guys out there doing the job. So they need to make the requirements where you can get people in that want to do it, and that you need to be able to put down strict rules saying, like, you're going to do extra training. You're going to do these things because there is that kind of allure of people that want to have a position of power, that want to be in charge of somebody, and that's maybe not necessarily the right type of temperament to be able to do it. You want the guys that want to help people.
Yes.
Yeah, and you have to find a way to keep them.
Yeah, you don't want egomaniacs
Right.
in sports like just any kind of combat sport. Any combat sport weeds that shit out really quickly.
I think the cool thing is it lets the part grow where you have enough confidence to understand what your capabilities are and your limitations are.
Yeah.
Because you need an ego to be good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, you do.
You need an ego to be good as a police officer. You don't need an ego that's so big that it hurts you. You need the ego that goes like, I know what I'm doing is good. I know this part is where I'm messing up. And this is how I need to get better. And I'm going to be the best guy in this room.
Agreed. I think it kills you if you have an inflated ego.
100%.
Like 100%. It's not an ego killer. It is an inflated ego killer. Is what I think.
Say an ego refiner.
It's an ego refiner. I think that's a good way to put it because it gives people a lot of self-confidence. Well, it gives genuine self-confidence.
Yes.
Because like a lot of people who walk around with like their chest out with these big egos aren't even that naturally confident in themselves anyway.
But they were qualified enough to do the job. They met the requirements. They met the standards. So what do we got to do? We've got to make the standards different where those people that still are able to get into that job that don't have that kind of temperament, they don't have that kind of mentality, can still get the same type of training and be put to the same standard as everybody else.
So my thing on this is that I think that you need to make the standards a lot higher for physical fitness and for,
100%.
and for training and for work that you're going to put in outside of the academy to become better at your job. But then you got to make the standards lower for weed. That's the trade-off. Like that becomes a trade-off.
I think that's going to be one of those things that just gets hammered out as federally and statewide things get put in place. But I do think that there needs to be something where, I know me specifically. I know there are a couple guys that have applied at a couple departments that I know that do jiu-jitsu all the time. They worry about what they're eating. They go shoot. They understand safety. Hey, does that guy need help? Oh man, I was helping some lady in charge. They are the most awesome, humble, good, motivated dudes, and they can't do it because 5 years ago, they admitted to it. They didn't lie on their application 5 minutes ago. Hey, 5 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes might be a problem. You might be under the influence. But 5 years ago, they smoked a joint or whatever. Or 5 years ago they had a pot brand or something. So, I mean, that kind of sucks. It's not like 5 years ago they did meth.
Right, but that's a big deal. But that's actually a big deal though because you're weeding out a lot of like qualified people, and you're probably weeding out people with a better temperament to be cops than when you're
because they're more relaxed.
I think so. I think that you talked about this earlier that when you're a cop, right, like you see the worst in people constantly.
100%.
Like you're overworked and underappreciated. Like if there's anybody that deserves to smoke a joint by the time the shift is over, like when they're not like at work or interacting with the public, like it's somebody like that, right?
I think anything that just makes it where you can. It's not something that's talked about as much with law enforcement or first responders in general, but as it is with military. But PTSD is a huge thing. It's a real thing. It's a problem. And you see things on a daily basis that just eat at you. You go work, let's say you work a 12-hour shift. In that 12-hour shift, especially if you're in West Texas, you're definitely going to work a major accident. You're definitely going to work DWIs, so you're going to get the people that are drunk acting like jerks. It could have killed somebody. It pisses you off because you just worked the fatality accident the night before, where the whole family was killed because of the drunk driver. And so now this drunk driver's walking around, saying, "Yeah, you're a piece of crap. I'll see you when I get out." You're just, talk crap to you, and you're like, "You could have done what I just had to go through last night and see." Then you go get the guy that him and his wife are arguing, and the cop says, "Hey, you know what? This isn't your house. No, this is my house. You sit down." He's got a bad attitude, but why does he have a bad attitude? Because the night before, he was helping the lady pick her teeth out of the door frame, of another house. So you just have to. I get if you have a bad day and you at your job, then you might be rude to someone while you're pedaling down the street.
Oh yeah,
not talk to them.
Yeah, of course.
And then they're like, "Hey, I said turn left." and you're not patient, and you yell at them, "Well, get out of my cab." Okay. But these guys, in their job, that doesn't mean they should have doesn't mean they should be excused for it, but it just means that there needs to be a little bit of understanding that, like, hey, my job, folding clothes at Hot Topic, the way I have to do customer service when someone says something rude to me or whatever, isn't necessarily the same thing, because the person at Hot Topic that's rude to you when you're folding the clothes, you didn't get the right size, doing the return, taking too long, that person's probably not going to shoot you in the face.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, what you're saying makes sense. Like, there's no arguing that. I think that type of stuff needs to be like framed and understood.
I think it's just like a career of hypervigilance is just a big issue.
Yeah, but I think that, like, back to all that stuff though, like, you mentioned earlier, you get a lot of alcoholism amongst cops and all that stuff, right? And it's like, I talked to this one guy who was an ex-cop for like 30 years, right, and did like the security detail for our mayor, and then the police chief before the one put like 2 chiefs ago, this guy Art Acevedo, right? And he was like, well, you don't want people going to work under the influence. And I'm like, well, 100%. If you're testing, and I get it, you shouldn't, right?
100%, yeah.
But it, like,
I mean, if I can't operate a forklift, I definitely shouldn't shoot a gun.
No, 100%. I understand that. But it's like when you're testing for weed, the only influence that they're going to be under, if they're under anything, is probably going to be alcohol. So it's like you might see a drunk cop. Like, what's worse, a cop that's drunk on the job or a cop that's high on the job? Well, does that make sense? Like,
but the issue is what they're looking at is, again, I think for that job, you have to look at is extremely litigious society. So if I get in a shooting, I'm on the job, I get in a shooting. Let's even take it a step back from that. Let's just say I injure a guy, or he claims injury, who he was fighting me, who he had just stolen from a store and was trying to punch me, and he punched the clerk to get away everything.
Yeah, okay.
I hurt that guy's arm. I have to go get piss tested.
Oh, they piss test you every time that happens?
If there's an excessive use of force, there's an injury. If I get injured,
so if you have any substance, that's bad, though, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have alcohol, there's still a lawsuit. If you have anything, so then what's
so let's say you get into a shooting and you show that you had like X number of nanograms or micrograms or whatever the John Jones term is of the week,
weed?
Or whatever it is. Let's say you have that in your system after you just shot somebody because you smoked. You were off the day before and you smoked.
But that's why you shouldn't even drug test. That shouldn't even be considered a drug, I don't think. Like, between me and you, I don't think that should even be considered a drug in the police department.
But while it is...
I get it. Yeah. I understand. While it is. But just between me and you...
Oh, I get that.
Anybody with a brain should understand that should not be considered a drug in any capacity, because that could show up on your piss test when you smoked 3 weeks ago. Whereas if alcohol, you got to be drunk at the time that this is happening almost for you to get it shown.
Right.
And it's like, if you're, maybe the cop, right, hypothetically, who has a drinking problem, might just smoke a little more weed instead of drinking on the job, right, because of the stress of the job.
So the difference of that, I get
that's kind of like one of the things I'm kind of like referencing to. I don't know if I'm explaining it.
No, I get what you're saying. I think the biggest issue is like the thing about that's a cool thing to have the conversation. There's a lot of hypotheticals, a lot of conjecture, and you can say like it would be better if they could do this, or what if we did this, or had this kind of program, or hey, you can do this while on your days off, whatever it is, and we'll figure out how to do the math where we know the numbers and what's influential or not. No matter what, what gets taken care of with that, at the end of the day, the biggest issue is police officers are trained 40 hours of defensive tactics training in their academy, and after that they're done and they don't want to go do training, and the ones that do need to be praised and lauded for it and given promotions and put out there so everybody else strives to be like that guy.
I agree. They need to do more training, and that the fact that you only allow 40 hours is laughable.
Well, it's the requirement.
But it should be
more.
You
gotta do 40 hours.
You gotta
for sure.
You gotta just be consistent. You gotta train jiu-jitsu. Like, you gotta train any combat.
Listen,
right? I just say jiu-jitsu because it's
if I do Krav Maga for 1 week, I am now an expert. Right?
I guess, right? According to all that.
According to all that, you are. That's the biggest issue is, you got guys that are training people in a way to fight, and you send those guys, say, hey, you know what, Alex, you're the best officer we have out here. You're really highly motivated. We know you do jiu-jitsu. We're going to send you the spear class by Tony Blauer. We're going to send you the spear, and you're going to go to instructor certified, and then we're going to have in-service because all these excessive use of force complaints, everybody's worried about cops beating them up. So you're going to come back in, and you're going to train our guys so they're all certified and covered. Cool? You're going to go to a 5-day course. When you get done with that 5-day course, you are now a certified instructor. So that means you know everything there is to know, the ins and outs, all the hypotheticals, the what-ifs, all the technique.
It's like the Matrix. It's like in the Matrix.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, hey, I know
jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
whatever. Like, so now you know that, and you're going to teach somebody. So your watered-down version now goes to this guy, and there's a watered-down version.
You have a pyramid scheme of watered-down martial arts that's being brought in to the police department.
Right.
That's dangerous, bro. Like that's like the leak of the day right there.
We need to not have the slap chop sham wow jiu-jitsu. We're gonna have a pyramid scheme. We need to have the Foreman grill defensive tactics. It's stuff that you can use forever and it works. It actually works. It tastes like crap, but it actually works. You know what I mean? These guys are gonna have to choke down like learning how to grapple. It is what it is.
You have to. And you should want to. If you're going to be a cop, that should be like what you should like want to do that. You should be like excited to do that stuff, right? Like that's what I think.
Austin is extremely lucky that they have a guy that is one of the co-founders of the Invictus movement, the BJJ Make It Mandatory movement. Jason Repsch, he's at Hensel Gracie Austin. They just opened up. And he does programs for military and veterans and for police officers so they can get access to this training that they need. And he has lesson plans with the state of Texas and everything. Like it's all legit stuff that is available to people here in Austin. So any people out, if you're sheriffs, corrections, police officers, whatever, you need to go out and get that training. And there are places like that literally everywhere. It's not like 10 years ago when we did jiu-jitsu and you had to go, all right, well, I'm going to learn some stuff off Grappling Magazine and submissions101.com, and then I'll go to a gym when I go to a big city, when I visit. There's access to it now, and people need to take advantage of it.
I agree, and I think it's slowly happening, but it does encourage me that people want to have the discussion, right?
For sure.
Like, if I were to bring this up and talk about this like 5 years ago, people would look at me like I was crazy.
Right.
The departments would dismiss me and blow me off, and
you want to teach our guys how to choke people like on purpose?
Yeah. And then the activists would tell me that what I'm doing is going to cause more brutality and all that stuff, like backwards line of thinking, right? But now you're talking. I mean, I think the activists are still in the backwards line of thinking right now.
Right.
Maybe I'm making a generalization, but that's just how I feel from my interactions. But a lot of the cops, or a lot of people that are like pro-police, or a lot of people that were like retired cops, are kind of down with that idea. Like they're very receptive to listening to me pitch the idea, and I think that does show growth.
Well, I think the big thing is they go, man, I should not have had as much of a difficult time dealing with the drunk guy that weighed 120 pounds that wasn't fighting, just didn't want to give me his hands. I should not have had that much of a difficult time with him where I had to slam him on his face.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff happens. You have the officers that go, that shouldn't have happened, and I need to get better at my job, or that go, I got him in handcuffs, didn't I? Well, you're right, you sure did.
Good job.
Good for you.
Good job.
Great.
There might be a lawsuit coming because that guy got all fucked up.
You know what? But again, you have to be the kind of person that look yourself in the eyes, look yourself in the mirror every day and go, man, I kind of screwed that up a little bit. I didn't have to get that handcuff guy and slam him on his head while I was walking him into jail.
Yeah, and then handcuff guy is going to talk about how he got brutalized and abused by the cops.
Yeah, which he did,
and he tells his friends. And then you continually perpetuate this really bad narrative that our cops are getting right now because of
that they're
shitty training.
They're bullies, right?
That they're bullies, yeah, because of shitty training.
Well, guess what? You put a bully in martial arts, what happens?
They stop becoming bullies.
They stop being a bully. So it answers both questions for you.
Dude, I agree, and I hope that this podcast kind of like illustrates the importance of it, or it conveys it to people who might not like otherwise like see that, right?
Let's be honest. We're right now talking about this. We're reaching more people than Rogan when he talked to GSP.
Facts.
It is what it is.
Facts, dude. 100%, man. This is like I'm getting more views than CNN. Who knows, dude? This
is a fake podcast.
Yeah,
okay,
fake,
got it. Fake podcast.
I saw that Project Veritas video.
Yeah.
Where they the guy was one of the staffers went on a Tinder date with the communications director, and he was like, "Yeah, this is all propaganda. We just trying to get Biden in. It is what it is. We paint pictures of him. We take pictures of him jogging, wearing aviators. He's got to be a young Jerry Ash." I'm like, what? This is the most trusted source of news, and this is what you're saying on a date.
At least he's admitting it.
But he didn't know. He was like, this chick was just filming him, like I guess in secret, because she catfished him apparently. Anyway, bro, it's
yeah.
It's fucking gross.
I think what you need to see, honestly, and I think this is what's going to happen, is I think more officers are going to be doing jiu-jitsu, but it's not going to make it where there's more officers currently on the job that get involved with training. I think what's going to happen is these officers are going to be at the gym with the teenagers. Those teenagers are going to grow up doing jiu-jitsu with, Jason or Will or Jake, or Ben. They're going to be growing up with those guys doing jiu-jitsu and teaching them, helping them out. And what are they going to want to do? Well, those guys did jiu-jitsu. They were cool. They were funny. They had tattoos. They have a beat, whatever. I want to go be a cop. And now you have kids that have grown up their whole life learning how to be cool to people while being deadly weapons. They
Which is how
know
it should be,
who
which is
don't
exactly-
have an ego, who can handle stressful situations, who can handle someone in your face this close, sweating and breathing on you. Most people, you do that to them, they can't stand it. They can handle someone screaming in their face. They can handle someone choking them. They can handle all of it, and they want to be police officers. That should be kind of the generational goal for what's going to happen with law enforcement. I think that's what's going to happen.
I hope it's gonna. I hope that becomes the case. I hope that like.
But with stuff going on right now, there's no.
It doesn't
allure
look.
to the job.
It doesn't. It
There's
doesn't
no
look
allure.
like that's going to be the case. I think another thing that is kind of scary though, is that you're going to see like a lot of demoralization with these departments because of what's happening.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, we live in this ultra litigious society where you could like sue anybody for anything, and then you have the tech companies that. I almost think that these people deliberately find like the most egregious shit possible, and and will blast it and blast it and blast it for views or to promote a message or to do something, right? You know.
But, there was no camera crew around when the chief of police at Midland pulled over in the morning when he was on his way to work. So that means he had to do a staff meeting, run admin, talk to all these people. There was no camera around watching him help the lady out with her tire jacked up on the side of the road.
Yeah,
and I saw it happen.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. I just what I was saying though is that like you have all this stuff that's happening with it's being like hating cops is like becoming the cool thing to do right now.
It's in vogue for sure.
Yeah, like hating cops is just becoming the cool thing to do. And what can happen is like, you know, if I'm a cop and I get a call, I'm going to be a little bit less motivated to respond to that call because I'm scared of getting sued or I'm scared of like going viral or I'm scared of like getting canceled or getting arrested or having, you know, having something happens where it gets blown out of proportion by the media or 100%. I just fuck up either way, right? Like but you're going through the cop's head about this. So it's like you got that going through their mind and so it's like, well, I'm not going to respond as quickly or I'm going to like be a lot more permissive of certain things to happen, or I'm going to quit my job and go somewhere else.
You know the good thing that's happening is all this bad stuff you got that the world sees on TV and on their phone, all the stuff they're seeing of cops screwing up and saying taser, 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 and shooting somebody.
Yeah.
And you know the cops that are you know kneeling up when the officer kneeled on George Floyd's head or on his neck and everything. Like, yes, I can have a 200-pound person put their legs down on me, and I can sit there for 10 minutes, and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't have any, whatever the other contributing factors are. But at the end of the day, you have all this stuff going on. Every single cop out there that is a good officer hates seeing it too. They're like, that guy's an idiot. That guy's that girl, that lady did not train. She was untrained. She couldn't handle the stress.
But do you think I agree with that. I saw that video.
Yeah.
And
she thought she had the taser.
I really think she thought that.
She was dominant. She had it on her dominant side. And in her mind, what does she do? She did what she's trained to do when she's under stress. Because I guarantee she's not trained to go hands-on with somebody and do her thing. She's trained, oh, my God, I got to shoot this guy. And not even that she shoot. I just had to tase him. She's trained to tase people. But where does she go? My hand goes right here where it's supposed to go every single time instead of where it goes here. Because you train with your gun more than you train with anything else, especially if you're not putting in that time. But
was the gun on the left side or the right side?
You can put it wherever you want. So she grabbed it with her dominant hand so she could shoot. So maybe it was right here.
So why would she
maybe it was cross-draw?
Not put the taser. Oh, yeah, I guess you always
She's
grab the gun.
Your dominant hand.
You always grab the gun with your dominant hand, right?
Right?
Yeah, that's the first thing you grab. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Now, again, you have to watch the video. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. You have to figure out what her training is. You have to figure out what her mind, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, any officers that see this stuff go, yeah, that's horrible. That's a horrible representation of our job. He probably did the thing he was trained to do. It's a crappy excuse, but it's true.
Yeah, but that just goes to show how bad the training is and how it's so outdated, and you got to fix it, right? Like
exactly.
That's where it falls in.
I mean, we all in this whole we could
and
talk about this for 3 days, and it would circle all the way back to we have to make training better. We have to make training better. So who's going to make training better? Well,
the same departments that are getting paid, these same like entities that are getting paid by the city, they're going to be mad. They're going to be like,
but you know who's really going to make it better? Is if people will go to city council meetings and say, we want money spent on this instead of spending on putting a new slide at this park. The kids need the slide, but we need our kids to grow up.
Or when you have the police meetings, you get more people that train. And I'm guilty because I don't go to any of these things, right? But like, you know, when it comes to these police meetings, like you just got to get people who are in the jiu-jitsu community to show up and
say,
pitch. This is what we want. We want this. We will donate. We will donate time. We will help. We want to be a part of this. This will, I think, help tremendously. You just need more people to go out there and like advocate for that. I think that a better. I'm not even going to say a more trained department, because I don't think we should just spend more money on training with the way training is now. I think you need to revamp the training and then spend more money on training. But
make the training scaled to what we are going through now, and the being hands-on, the trends we've
seen. You have
to
revamp a lot of that.
Yeah.
Like, so here's the thing, man. Like, if I were to actually be on the city council, if I would have been like mayor of Austin, right?
You were the mayor of Austin.
I should have been. No, but if I like voter fraud didn't exist and I actually got legitimately elected, right? And I had to negotiate with the police chief about like contracts, right, or restoring funding. I would say, yeah, we need to give you guys your funding back, 100%.
Right.
No one's arguing with you. No one's arguing with you. But there are certain things that I'm going to start expecting from you guys before I give you back that funding. And if you can't agree to these revisions that are going to help everybody, that anybody with half a brain wants, then we're not going to give you back your funding until you agree to these revisions that are only going to help your department.
Right, 100%.
And that's it. But you got to let them know, and you'd be like, hey, we're holding this hostage because you don't want to improve your department, and we're not going to spend money on something that doesn't work.
And I guarantee you there's a lot of chiefs out there that are like, let's do it then. They've been waiting for the time.
Yeah, they exactly. Like, you need a city official to like hold, like, a lot of these people, man. My take on it is this, right? Like, if you're in the military, if you become a police officer, become a firefighter, if you become like, even if you're doing a martial, like even if you're like a fighter, right? Or you play football, you like structure. They want structure. Like they want like people.
I need a team. I need a coach, a director.
I want somebody who's competent that cares telling me what to do. Like I want somebody that I have faith in telling me what to do, right? And so it's
the problem with a lot of departments is you got them that either have faith in this guy or I absolutely have zero faith in this guy. I'm not going to do anything extra excited except clock in and clock out.
I know that nobody has any faith in Steve Adler. None.
Right.
You know, I know these guys have no faith in Adler. Like, it's a fact.
Yeah.
Right? But if they had faith in, like, Alex Strenger, and Alex Strenger said, hey, no, seriously,
you're right.
Like, if they, I mean, I am right. Like, because, I get along with a lot of the cops downtown.
Right.
I know a couple from training. I mean, I'm not, like, someone like a Tim Kennedy or what's that guy's, Travis Joyner or any of these guys that are I'm not nearly on that.
Travis is amazing.
Yeah, I'm not, like, anywhere close to that level, and I don't pretend to be, right? But I still have a basic idea of what I'm doing. I think 100%. The ideas I have are good. They're positive ideas. They're only going to help. And I, generally speaking, like, if I want to do something, I'm pretty, like, firm about, like, what I want to do.
Yep.
I think people respect that, and I'm pretty good at communicating value to what I'm saying. So I think that, like, they'd be more willing to, like if I'd probably do a much better job of negotiating with our police chief about how we can spend money on policing than anybody in our city council. Like, I would put money on that, like 100%. You know, I have no problem saying that with a straight face.
I think we're getting close. I think it's going to be something over the next 10 years. Again, you look at where the world is and how long it takes to affect any kind of change and what realistically can happen. I mean, it's going to be a decade. You know,
I think so. I think people need to understand that, and they gotta we
just got to make it through this year first,
well,
and then
I think people need
the
to
next
understand,
3
like,
after that.
Everyone talks about how you can't have incremental change; it's not enough. I'm like, no, man, it actually is a marathon. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It really is. Like, it's a marathon.
What would you tell someone if you say we can't have incremental change in society?
You need sweeping changes, but that's not true.
But you would tell anybody else, hey, you're not going to get better at this overnight. 1% each day, whatever.
You tell people that's literally a motive for success. Yeah. It's like the people that want. From what I've noticed, the people that tend to advocate for like the biggest, most boldest sweeping government changes don't even do the smallest thing to help change their own lives.
100%.
So it's like, well, if you're advocating
you got to be doing
for
it
a bold societal change, like, what are you doing to boldly change your position in life? Right? Like, it makes no sense. And like, if you look at like a rule for success, and maybe I'm not the person like who should be saying that because I'm pretty mediocre, right? Like, financially, like everything, financially, like jiu-jitsu wise, like, you know, everything I've done, like, I hasn't really like technically like exceeded the. If you want to get technical, right?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't really done anything to exceed the concept of mediocrity.
Okay. I agree with you.
I know. No, it's the truth. Like, I really haven't, and I'm okay with it because I'm still doing my best to try to do something that I feel a purpose in.
Right.
And I've still, with that being said, I've still improved a lot. Like, in 2017, 2016, I wasn't mediocre, I was terrible. Is that like?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
Like,
yeah,
you know, like in 2017, I had like $2,000 in my bank. I was like, you know, training all the time to get one MMA fight. I won that MMA fight, but it's like, okay, you had one MMA fight, you're 1-0, you're pretty unremarkable at that. And I mean, you grew, but it's like, okay, now I'm a little bit less terrible because I accomplished something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's like, okay, well, like let me make these rap songs. I'm like, well, training and doing a combat sport and trying to do it like competitively. It does something to help your creativity.
Right.
100%.
100%.
So that stimulated my creativity to make the songs that I've made, right? And then the mayor stuff happened because I tried to do Golden Gloves in like 2018, and I'm just like, dude, this is getting hit in the face kind of sucks. And having to
You're
run
not
like
wrong.
3 miles a day kind of sucks. And having to do sprints just so getting hit in the face doesn't hurt as much, or you don't get as tired from having this awful thing happen to you on a reoccurring basis. Like, this isn't really that, like, this is cool, and I can do it, and it's fun, the camaraderie, and it's good to get better at a new skill. But it's like, yo, man, if I could, like, make a living, or if I could, like, find something else to do as a hobby that I'm better at,
Probably be a good idea.
yeah, like so then it's
Fair.
like, maybe I should try to be the mayor of
Valid.
Austin.
Yeah. Might as
Yeah.
well. Might as well.
And then it's like, okay, after that, it's like, well, now I'm going to put, like, all the effort that I put into trying to fight or trying to be the mayor of Austin, trying to do everything, into just, like, having money? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like putting that effort, like, it's a lot easier to make money than it is to do any of these things.
The end
Yeah.
reward usually works out at the very least
Does that-
a little better, right?
Does that make sense?
100%,
And so it's like
100%.
now I'm middle class. Now I'm middle class.
So now
Right.
you've reached mediocrity.
So now I've literally reached mediocrity, yes. And so the point is, it takes incrementally, right? Like, you get a little
I like
bit better and you improve every day. And it's like, you don't get a black belt overnight. You don't, like, become a
100%.
college wrestler overnight. You don't become, like, you don't become a pro MMA fighter overnight, like a
Nope.
good pro MMA fighter. Actually, you actually can be a pro MMA fighter overnight.
You actually can, as long as you
You
got
know-
paperwork, blood
Yeah.
work, and a driver's license.
You can't be a
Ugh.
good MMA fighter overnight.
No.
So I think that when people say, like, oh, yeah, we can't afford incrementalism, I'm like, no, dude, that's the only way sustainable change happens, is if it happens, like, slowly. Or
Yeah,
you
I mean,
expect it to happen over time.
It's just like Sam Cooke said, change is gonna come.
It's going to come, yeah. I agree, but when people try to get expedited change, that never, like, becomes anything good.
There's
It
never
never.
a plan with it either.
Right, there's never.
There's no
right?
like, ooh, we can't. It's very hard to course correct when it's immediate.
Like, you ever see those infomercials where people lost, like, oh, I lost 30 pounds in 15 days? Right? You know, like those,
Yeah.
oh, look at me, I'm on a juice cleanse, look how good I look. And then, like, 2 months later, you're just, like, back to being fat as fuck. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
I do know what you mean.
you look great.
Thanks.
Don't hurt me.
Ugh.
But you get what I'm saying,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Like, I think that it's all, like, you gotta, I think, like, understanding through the concept of self makes people need to have a more realistic assessment of, like, what they expect from their government and from society as a whole. Because anytime
And what
you
they
make,
expect from themselves.
yes, but anytime you expect bold, sweeping changes, they never work.
No.
Almost never, right? Or the guy that gets really jacked in, like, 2 months is on a cycle.
Yeah.
You know, like,
And then after that, he just gets fat.
yeah. Or it's like, even when you're in a fight camp, right?
Yeah.
You ever see how yoked people look when after their fight camp is over, or how shredded they are?
Yeah.
And what happens after
And
the
then
fight?
literally not 2 weeks, 2 days after that, they're 13 pounds heavier. They feel like crap. They're not going to go to train for at least 2 weeks because I just want to take a break, relax. And they got a 145-pound fight coming up. All of a sudden, there's a late replacement, and they're 170 pounds. It's like, hey, bro, what's going on? It happens all the time.
Yeah, meaning that, like, rapid, sweeping, crazy change is not sustainable.
Not.
It's not sustainable. And then, like, our city with the homeless stuff, right? Like, that was a bold policy, man. And, like, what we do with homeless people, I think, was pretty fucked up beforehand, right?
Yeah.
When you have, like, 5 cops, like, surrounding one fucking crackhead, and I'm just like, that's the biggest waste of fucking resources, my opinion, right? But it's like, it paved the way for the city saying, hey, well, it shouldn't be a crime for them to camp, right? And by seeing, like, some of that stuff a few years ago, I was like, I agreed with the city at first.
Right. And
You know,
now
I'm
you
like-
see what's going on. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, you did this too quickly and with no plan, and now look at what we have here. Everything that you did is going to literally, it's going to be for nothing. It's going to get taken away. You're going to get people who are going to become a lot more right-wing as a result of it. Like, you had no plan and you tried to rush something in, like, at a sweeping, rapid rate, and all you did was make a problem, make it worse.
And they're going to vote that out. They're going to try to vote that Prop B or whatever.
Oh,
with
yeah,
it, right?
and it's
so
gonna
they're going to do
pass.
that.
It's gonna pass.
for sure
That's
because
gonna
everybody
pass.
here is like, holy crap, I don't
Yeah.
want this. And then what's happening from there, you're going to have police officers who are now going to be the guys that have to enforce that policy. They're going to make contact with those people who, I mean, just being honest off statistics. People that are homeless usually have a drug problem, alcohol problem, and or mental health problems. And so now those officers are having to come to those people, and now what are they going to do? We got to fight those guys. And then what happens when those guys gets hurt? What happens? We should have been training jiu-jitsu. Boom.
I think that's how we're going to wrap it up. Anyway, Brad, how can we get a hold of you?
Midland BJJ on Instagram, Brad Gordino with an H on Instagram, and look us up, midlandbjj.com.
Do you have Twitter?
I don't tweet.
You don't tweet?
I'm not into tweeting.
You're not missing out too much, dude. It's a fucking headache. But anyway.
Yeah,
hey,
I'm trying to not
Brad Barnes, ladies and gentlemen.